Three. Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon to three of my great friends that I'm so excited to chat with for a few minutes today. The week we're living this week and next week are not only is the year that we're living historic, but for all political junkies or people that have been involved in policy and campaigns, these are really, truly historic, once in a lifetime, we hope, experiences. So I'm glad to have three of our friends that are very engaged on the Democratic side and with this week's Democratic National Convention. Next week, we'll be speaking to our friends that are involved with the RNC, because that's one of the great things of working for and with FIU. We have friends on all sides of the aisle, and we're glad that our alumni are well represented. Let me quickly get to it. If you can just quickly give me a nugget, who you are, like what you actually do on a day job basis, but also what's your role in this year's Democratic Convention. Why don't we start with Lourdes?
Well, my name is Lourdes Diaz. I'm retired from media. I used to work at Telemundo and also in radio. So as a media person, I was never really allowed to be involved in politics, and now I'm 100% entrenched. I'm also the president of the Hispanic Caucus in Broward, vice president of the Pembroke Pines Democratic Club, vice president of the Women's Club. So as you can see, I got very, very involved in Broward, but still do a lot of work with my Miami friends. And basically what I do on a day-to-day basis is I look for candidates that I feel we need to support so that we can have good government. Because without good candidates, look what we have today. And
your role in this week's convention is what?
I am on the credentials committee, so I was involved in formulating all the resolutions to make sure that everybody was certified to be able to vote for our next president, Joe Biden. So that was my role.
Alex Howard, who are you and what was your role?
So my name is Alex Howard. I was a graduate of the class of 2014 at FIU. And as soon as I graduated FIU, I moved to DC. I had an internship in the Office of Hispanic Media at the White House, and even before that opportunity, I had been fortunate enough to come to DC and intern and work for Congressman Joe Garcia, who was the member that Raul, who's also on the call, was the chief of staff for. So Raul and I go way back. And my day job now is I am the director of strategic communications and media affairs at a bipartisan consulting group here in DC. And my role in the convention was that I was on the rules committee. And so what that entails is that we were voting on the rules governing the 2024 process for nominating the Democratic nominee for president and vice president.
Okay. Raul Martinez, who you be and what have you been doing this week?
So my day jobs, I am the Deputy Chief of Staff for Congresswoman Donna Shalala. When I'm not doing that, my other job is being Donna Shalala's campaign manager. Excuse me. I kind of say I'm Donna's person all around. And this week, I'm actually an elected Biden delegate for my district, District 27, the same district that Congresswoman Shalala represents, and a proud FIU alumni as well.
That's right, and I forgot to leave out, all of you are proud FIU alums, and that's nice together. So actually on that note, maybe you can just give us a moment each. What would have these roles been like in a traditional convention versus what has it been like in this Zoom-vention that we're living?
I gotta tell you, I've attended conventions in the past. The first convention I attended was in 2004, and I was sitting on the floor when Senator Obama gave his speech, and I was sitting next to my mother, and we looked at each other and said, "Who's this guy?" I was there in 2008 and had all kinds of access, and it was a blast. The excitement of being on the floor and listening to these speeches, and there's just so much energy. And the last two conventions wasn't able to attend because I was working on staff in Florida. So this is the first time that I got to go as a delegate. I was an elected delegate and got to participate in all these things and see folks from around the country and around the state, and just so excited. And then COVID happened. Mm-hmm. And I mailed in my vote via email. And I went to the opening reception in my backyard, watching it on Zoom. So it's extremely different.
Yeah. Okay. Alex and Lourdes?
Go ahead, Alex. Okay. Well, I agree. I have gone to conventions also, and just the excitement of being there with so many people, and during the day having a great time with them, going to coffee shops, having lunch, seeing all the people that you've seen on TV, from all the other states. So that part is good. But what does happen in a convention is when there's so many speeches, sometimes you don't really pay that much attention because you're having too much fun with your friends, and you don't get, really into the messaging. What I'm finding here, doing it through Zoom, it's a one-to-one. Yesterday I had a meeting with Vice President Biden, and he met with the Florida delegation, and there he was on my screen, and I'm taking pictures of it. No, he's not here where you can touch and feel him, but I've seen him a million times before anyway. But you listen to the words, you pay more attention because you're not distracted. Also, there's so many more people that can be part of this convention, whereas before, you have to pay your hotel and your airfare and everything to attend, and a lot of people couldn't afford it. Now it's open to every single Democrat, Republican, or independent who wants to participate. And I think that's what's beautiful about doing this, because it's opening up government to the whole country. And that was the messaging. We are the United States, and we have to stop being the divided states. So I wish we were all together and we have a cortadito after we have our convention. That part I really miss, being una cubana. But at the same time, the messaging is there. You capture it, you share it with your friends, you put it on the Facebook groups that we've created for Joe Biden, and that's the positive of it.
And Alex, how has this been a distinct? I'm not sure if you were part of previous conventions, but
so this is actually my first convention, and so I had previously worked with people and been friends with people who had participated in previous conventions. I was like Raul. I was on staff on the last presidential campaign, and I was unable to attend the convention. So I was very much looking forward to going to Milwaukee and experiencing all the things that Raul and Lourdes were mentioning, like the networking, the socializing, and the just everyone coming together. And with the situation with COVID, that completely changed. But it's been really interesting from my perspective, because we're all able to rather sit in and experience the convention in an intimate setting at our home. And so my partner, for example, who isn't as politically active as I am, is paying a little bit more attention, and so she'll ask me questions, and it's really great to kind of have that inside baseball perspective of all the things that go around in the convention, and also listening to her feedback in real time, which is great.
So jumping off of those last 2 points that both of you just made, but for all of us, let's go beyond the convention. This has been an unconventional campaign cycle. Mm-hmm. Nevertheless, in the positive sense, as you started us down this path, Lourdes, what are those positives of what has been not your traditional campaign rally, knocking on doors, canvassing, traditional activities? Any other takeaways that, regardless of our hopeful return to normalcy that we can gain from this year? Raul,
Well,
any immediate thoughts, or Lourdes?
Well, what I see that I've gained from it, just talking about, let's say, my area here in Broward County, I always had monthly meetings with the Hispanic Caucus, and then monthly meetings with the Pembroke Pines Democratic Club, and then monthly meetings with the Women's Club. What we've been able to do, because I said, guys, let's just get together. Let's group ourselves. So instead of having a meeting where you have 50 people attend, we started having meetings where 250 people or 350 people. There's a guy here in Broward, his name is Ted Victor, who started the Broward Social Network, which is online, and he's got like 15,000 people that are members of his network. And then he started doing a lot of interviews. So we've been able to use, and I guess that's my background, working at Telemundo, what I did was educate a lot about Hispanic market. And then working as a volunteer for the League of Women Voters, we educate voters. So we have been able to use Zoom to educate voters, because we have the democracy that we vote for. And if we're unhappy with what's happening in this country, it's our fault. This is our country. So I think that we have to do a lot of education. We got to talk to the students at FIU. Every single one of them should be voting. When I've asked them sometimes, why don't you vote? Because I want to vote by phone. Why can't I vote with my phone? Because they're so advanced. They're so in the age of technology, and we're there with the little chads. And, honestly, my phone needs my fingerprint. And I think that that's more valid than a signature, but hopefully we'll change that in the future.
Raul, insights on what is and obviously we know that you've been involved in campaign circles for years, but any takeaways for you and what still is going to live with us for the future? And
I think that outreach obviously has changed this way. But like Lourdes said, we're able to communicate with so many more folks at one time. Typically in our congressional office on the official side, we have a limited amount of space where we can have a meeting with the congresswoman and a certain number of constituents, right? Our office just isn't built for large spaces, and DC even more so, right? We're meeting in the hallways and coffee shops and stuff. So we were able to get more folks into a Zoom room than a real room. Scheduling purposes, we also don't lose a lot of time traveling between one meeting and another. So we're also able to pack more into more meetings into a certain time frame. The downside is you do lose that personal touch. Some folks are different when they're three-dimensional and you're interacting with them. When somebody walks in a room and has presence, it makes a difference. So that side of it, we're definitely missing. But I think that the big takeaway is obviously we can do more outreach this way. Your universe is, and going to elections, because we're doing so much vote by mail, strategies change too, right? Ballots go out on October 1st. Overseas ballots go out September 15th. Vote by mail ballots go out October 1st. Traditionally, people would say, well, let's wait till early voting or let's wait till election day. 70% of ballots will be cast before election day, this November. At least in Miami-Dade County, that's the number we're looking at.
Yeah.
So your entire strategy changes. Where are you spending your money? Are you spending it on mail, door pieces? Are we knocking on doors? I've talked to several campaigns from the primary that ended yesterday that they were actually knocking on doors. And I'm kind of like, wow, how's that working? And I was like, well, about 50% of the people are scared and don't open the door, 50% open the door. I was like, well, 50% of the people wear masks and 50% don't. So unfortunately, that's how it's falling down the line. But I don't know what it's going to look like in a month. This changes every day. And we'll just play it by ear. But I know that as far as your media strategy is, we're going to be targeting vote by mail folks.
And Alex, if you can layer into you, and just to segue this along, insights that you think translate to advice you would give students that are at FIU that are looking to get involved in politics. But once again, that will be with us because of what we're experiencing now. Any thinking there?
Sure. And if before that I could expand a little bit on what Raul and Lourdes were saying, was one of the takeaways that I think that going forward campaigns are going to be implementing a lot is being able to use kind of that digital space and maximize their voter contact and their exposure. One thing that the Biden campaign that I've observed has done extremely well is that they set up the Vice President Biden's basement to broadcast. And so he's been doing meetings and local interviews with the local anchors in the different media markets, right? And so so for the folks that don't necessarily watch cable news like CNN, MSNBC, or Fox, and get their news from their local affiliate, it kind of bridges a little bit more of that trust, right? And that is something that I think campaigns going forward are going to be emulating. Now, translating that and how to get students involved is, there are a lot of candidates and a lot of campaigns around FIU that are always looking for interns and volunteers. And, I had my start in politics volunteering on a campaign. And I, was a member of the College Dems and got involved. So there's so many avenues for students to get involved in the campaigns. FIU was a early voting site. You can be a poll worker. There's so many opportunities for the students that, to have that they can just find what they want to do and they can do it.
Okay. And Raul, Lourdes, consider we're living this, I'm curious because a student, I know typically we would give advice to individuals along the lines of what Alex just said, regardless of your party, get involved. I've always said volunteering on any campaign, at the local level, district level, that'll teach you a good amount of humility as far as when you're knocking on the doors, figuring out the different constituents and the needs in the neighborhoods. But the mechanics, the basic mechanics, knocking on doors, some fundraising, a lot of volunteers, ground game on election day. But considering this is a different year, any lessons that you would like our students to learn?
I'll tell you, we have interns on both sides, and this was a learning curve for us too. On the official side, we had interns that we had to change that were scheduled to intern with us over the summer, and they're calling saying, what's going on? I was like, I don't know. So we've had to change that, and we worked through it, and we took on campaign interns as well. And I still think they volunteer, and there's certain areas they if they like finance or they like communications, there's a role for them to play, even if it's online, if it's doing press clips, preparing press clips, if it's writing releases, if you're into the finance side of it and you want to learn how to use NGP or whatever software program they use to track donors and follow up on calls, that works. If it's somebody who wants to learn how to do outreach and they want to work in what we traditionally call field, which I don't know what it would be called now, but we're still calling it field. If you want to work on field, we have text parties and you organize volunteers and you do volunteer recruitment, and and we come up with fun ways to get volunteers to engage. So there's still a space for interns. Absolutely, I encourage them, and it doesn't matter. Honest to God, I always tell everybody, and it's specific to conventions, I've always said this, going, if you have a chance to go to a convention, Republican, Democrat, whatever, obviously you're going to be much happier if they align with your views, but you got to see it. It's a spectacle, the actual being in the hall. And you're like, wow, this person is wearing an animal on their head. Right? And it's something that it's a spectacle. So get involved, whatever it is, and you're going to learn so much more hands-on stuff. And this is, and you can read a book, and I've read a couple, but there's nothing like actual putting your hands in it and being a part of it. That's a really great experience, and you'll make contacts to last a lifetime, hopefully.
And more often than not now, that animal on the head is really just an Instagram filter, we're learning, right?
Sometimes it is.
Probably.
Or a name across the front.
All right, to wrap this up, quick lightning round. Raul, you just mentioned something, the timetable has changed from what a traditional cycle would have been, but in the next month and a half, things that from a mechanics standpoint, just like that, anything we should be looking for or trying to cue in on from both sides, both campaigns? What's going to be different or what's going to be key?
No, I think that, right after Labor Day, it's already started, but after Labor Day, you'll see a lot more folks go up with their TV ads. That'll come up. And they're going to keep trying to engage. And then you'll start seeing news stories about folks trying to push their, on why they're the best candidate, their agenda.
Lourdes, things that we should be looking for in the next month and a half?
Well, I was going to say that, as either political science or maybe journalism students at FIU, that we need their help. We need them to volunteer. We need them to be on, the Facebook groups. We need them to do tweeting. If you're a good writer, join Donna Shaleila's group and become a volunteer, or anybody that is running. That is how you learn. School provides you a foundation. It provides you your educator and your books. When you get out, you actually have to do the work. And I think that, and just the fact that we are now in a social media world, the younger you are, the better, because you brought up in this technology. At 1 year old, kids already have their phones. So I think that's what's most needed. The young people, this is your world. I'm here to help because I now have a grandson and I want to make a better world for him. So if you're a student now at FIU and you want to get involved, like I said, political science students, journalism students, this is an amazing opportunity to learn from soup to nuts of how to run a company. Because basically, when you're running a political campaign, you are running a corporation, a company. And I think that's just the best thing that you can do. And you become an intern, and then you have that on your resume forever.
Alex?
I mean, both what Raul and Lourdes said are incredible nuggets of advice and what to expect. I think what to expect in this aspect is just a lot of onslaught and digital ad spending. More and more people are spending less and less time watching TV, and so the campaigns are just going to be pushing their digital ad spending, and they're meeting the voters where they are, which is on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and so I am going to be looking for, just seeing who does a better job at voter contact. And, like any person that's been involved in politics in Miami, I always look forward to the October surprise.
We can expect them on both sides.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Which for those students watching who aren't familiar, it's basically when you do the opposition research of your political opponent, and then you drop that oppo right before people receive their ballots. And it's always a little fun to watch.
Depends what side of you're on.
No,
Correct.
And I
Correct.
think that's something important to point out, especially with South Florida, is the uniqueness of our market. Because when you're running for office, whether it's a local office as a commissioner or a federal office, and then you're a Democrat, you will be called a communist or you will be called a socialist. So you have to deal with that also and have a knowledge of Latin American Cuban policy. If you don't have that knowledge, you don't fit into South Florida. It's one of the most unique markets in the entire United States. And we're an extension of Latin America. So that mudslinging does happen on both sides. Just that's what politics is all about.
So to wrap it up, and I'm sure you all, three that I'm speaking to, have many of those pinch me political moments. But if you can rewind the clock to maybe ideally closer to your youngest, your earliest pinch me political moment that really maybe helped trigger, like, okay, this political thing is something I'm gonna be a part of. Any come to mind?
Birth.
Huh?
Birth.
Birth? Okay.
Well, from birth, he's been in politics from birth. That's what he means. So that's the truth.
3 years old, my first campaign.
Yeah. Any
well, my best political moment was I didn't really know too much about politics, and I was just had been married to a gentleman named Manny Diaz, who ended up being our mayor in the city of Miami, and we had an opportunity.
Another FIU alum.
Another FIU alum, and we had the opportunity to have an event for Senator Kennedy. And sitting at it, there was an empty chair, and I sat next to the empty chair. I had no idea that the empty chair was there for the senator because he went around to all the tables. And I just was like, oh my God, this was the brother of Jack, Kennedy. That was to me overwhelming. And the discussion back then was about the Russians. And what do we do about Russia? Yeah. And I never forgot that. And then I said, this is really a lot of fun. This is very interesting because you get to meet the most powerful decision makers in the world, which is in the United States. So that I remember.
Raul, Alex, any of those earliest?
I don't know if I've been very fortunate and I've got to staff photo lines and meet a bunch of folks. I think that the one moment that I always think back that I remember vividly was 2013, and I was working with Congressman Garcia, and I was chief of staff on the Hill, and we're always on our phones, and we're walking and typing and stuff, and I walk out of the Longworth building, and I go down to this and stop, and I look up and I see the Capitol, and I just stopped, and I was like, I'm here. I've made it to here, and this, and I've always had this call to service, and I'm here. Look, I mean, this kid from Hialeah is standing on the steps of the Capitol, serving in the most powerful and greatest place that I could be. I mean, it was, it was like my breath was taken away in that moment that I had by myself, just like a stop and appreciate where I was.
Cool. And Alex, for the close.
So I have an early memory, but the one that gives me the best feeling is when I was interning in the White House, and my dad was visiting Washington, and he wanted to go to lunch into this restaurant, and I said, Dad, I don't have time to do a sit-down restaurant. The White House is keeping me very busy. I can meet you at 12:30 for 15 minutes at the Cozy across the street, which Cozy is like a cheaper version of Panera Bread, and which is not the type of restaurant that my dad likes at all. But needless to say, he met me there, and I was 45 minutes late. I was rushing down, and I order and I wolf down my food. He just looks at his, tries one bite, and he's like, "This is disgusting," and throws it out. And so then we ended up walking in Lafayette Square Park, and we were just catching up because I hadn't seen him in a few months. And then I said, all right, Dad, well, I got to go. And I show my credentials, and the Secret Service agent opens the gate, and I go through the security, and I look back, and I just see my dad, and who I've never seen cry in my life, wipe a tear of joy off of his
Very
face.
nice. Cool.
And
He's so
and you know, had it not been for FIU, I don't think I would have gotten there.
Well, that's a tall compliment. But no, I imagine that each one of you, look at that, Raul's wearing
mask. Oh, an FIU mask. I love it.
and
Did
we've
you
made
buy that
reference to it.
online? I want one. Did you buy that online?
We will
Yes.
make sure you get one, even for your 20-minute of service today.
Advertising.
Do we get a swag bag, Carlos?
So we've made reference to the internship component, and Alex, I think that's when you and I first met. You were working at the White House. We want to thank Congresswoman Shalala, but all of our delegation, Congressman Diaz-Balart, Marcus Powell, Wasserman Schultz, our Florida, the senators, both offices have been great to and open to placing our FIU students. So most of the students that will be listening to this, you know that our talent lab at FIU in DC is here for you, and we look forward to helping you acquire many of these awesome, great experiences. So, well, I want to thank you all. Thanks for taking a few minutes out of your busy Zoomvention day and giving us some great nuggets, whether it be the timetable issues, strategy points, the digital space, and how this is all a new world for all of us. So thank you all.
My pleasure.
Our pleasure. A lot of
Thank
fun.
you, guys.
See you later.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.